Hi guys, hello and welcome to another tutorial where we will be learning CSS. In this tutorial, so far what we have done here, as you can see, is I have added a background color and I've changed the text color. So I'll show you what I did here in the CSS document. Is in my CSS document I've included a body tag so I can set the maximum and minimum width to my page. In the absence of these properties, you will notice that it goes all the way across the page, 100%. It just goes all the way across the page. So when I include these properties, it allows me to set the maximum and minimum width, and within that I can do things. So what else I did here is I added the background color for my heading and I added a text color for my heading. Now one of the other things that you can do is if you want your heading to be center aligned, right now it's not center aligned, it's basically taking up 100% of the available area, which I've given it, which is from 1400 pixels to 1000 pixels. That's the range, but the overall stuff is left aligned. The overall page is left aligned on the screen. So if I want to move the page right in the middle of the browser window, I can again give the margin with 0 pixels to be left top bottom and the same amount of space to be left and right, and that will go to automatically center align my page. Very similarly, I can come down here in the header and I can say, well, you know what, header, I'm going to increase your line height to 2 times to what it is right now. So that will going to increase the line height to 2 times to whatever it is right now. So all of these little things can be done right from CSS and makes your life so much easier. Okay, so letter spacing, I showed you last time. This allows you to space out your letters. So if I increase the letter spacing to 6 pixels and maybe increase the font size to, let's say, 30, and let me refresh. As you can see, let me add the pixels. I forgot to add the pixels here. So you can see they're spaced out and the font size is slightly larger as well. So these are some of the things that you can play around with. What else I want to do over here is I want to teach you how you can curve the borders. So there's a property in CSS called border radius. Border radius allows you to curve the corners, and you can give however many pixels you want it to be curved. So the higher the number, the more curve you're going to see. So if I say 2 pixels from each corner, you can see it just curves it very minimal. You can really see the difference. Now I can increase the border radius to go from this 2 pixels to a larger number. Let's say I want it to be 10 pixels, and you can see that these borders are curved in just a little bit. So higher the number, the more curve you can see. So I can increase it to 20 pixels and you can see more curves. Okay. Now what else you can do here is you can decide to curve different corners differently. So you can actually list the numbers, like 4 numbers, where each number will going to be for one of the corners. So I can say that I want my, practically speaking you won't do that, but I'm saying you can do it if you want different corners. So if I want my top left corner, that's the very first number. The top left corner is basically my very first number that I have. So 20 pixels is basically my border radius for top left, and for my top right, that's the next number, 10 pixels. Then I have my bottom right, which I can give, let's say, 15 pixels. And then I have my bottom left. This I can probably give, let's say, 20 pixels. So I want my top left to be 20 pixels, top right to be 10 pixels, and then I want my bottom right to be 15 pixels and bottom left to be 20 pixels. So I've changed things around a little bit. So now let's refresh this. Okay. So as you can see over here, they're pretty much the same because I've given them both the same value. Here, this one is smaller, this one is a little bit more than that. So that pretty much allows you to give different values to your corners. But you wouldn't necessarily do it that way for the most part. Now, if you really want only particular border to be dealt with, you can also do that. You can say, I want my border bottom left radius to be this much. So I want my border bottom left radius to be this much. So let's try to do that. I want my border bottom left radius to be 40 pixels. Now let's refresh. So notice all 3 corners are pointy except for this one corner that's a bit curvy. You can also do one more thing here, and that is you can give a different value to your horizontal and vertical radius. So the first value represents the horizontal radius. I can say I want my horizontal radius to be 40 pixels, but I want my vertical radius to be 20 pixels. So now if I refresh it, you can see my horizontal radius is slightly more than my vertical radius. So I can actually give that kind of an effect as well. Okay. Now sometimes you may see it like this as well. Okay. Now this may not work in all the browsers, so that's why you have to, that's why use it this way. Generally you will see the syntax when you're using a border radius property like this, and people may use something like this. This is the horizontal, this is the vertical. Okay, so you can see it now in effect. You can see that horizontal is a lot more than the vertical, as you can check each of the corners out here. So these are some of the things that you can play around with in terms of border radius, and you can do one particular area as well, and then likewise I can say I want my border bottom to be this way, and only the bottom is done this way. Similarly, I can change this bottom to a top, and then I can do it this way. You know, it's just the top. If I want only the 2 tops, then let's say if I just leave it like this, like border top radius, you know, you don't have any property like that. So you have to give, if you're giving it this way, you have to say I want my border top left and I want my top right. And I'm going to have effect in both of them. So this is how you can go about doing things in CSS in terms of bordering, that you can apply borders like this on all 4 locations. You can also give whatever border color you want. So you can pretty much say I want my border to be, let's say 3 pixels double, and I want it to be gray. Just to show you, okay? So you can see a slightly gray effect here. Let me zoom in so that you can see that a little bit better, okay? So there's a slightly gray effect there. So you can do all of those little things with CSS. So CSS is extremely amazing when it comes to these kind of wonderful effects. So in the next tutorial, I'm going to then start working with our images, because that's one of the main focus of starting this tutorial, is to work with images, and along the way we'll try to add some shadow and text effects. So catch you in the next tutorial. Have a